Okay. Hello, good evening, everybody, and welcome back to a brand new year and a new series of trainings, which I hope will bring a bit of value to you and to help you and guide you as we go into this new year. I'm doing things slightly differently, but still pretty much on the same lines. And I'm going to go a little bit more technical, I suppose you could say, on the anatomical side of things. I want to go through our body and how it works in a little bit more in-depth manner, and then show you how to boost those particular systems and help the body overcome issues, as well as the supplementation side of things. So for guests who will join us just now or watch this later, that's where I'm going to go to. I hope it's not going to be too technical. I'm trying to keep it to normal language that even I can understand, just to make it more interesting and easier. So I'm going to share my screen and we will get going. Where's my goodie? There it is. Okay. Put this down. All right. So I thought I would start tonight on probably a fairly unknown system, but an extremely important part of our immune system. And that is the lymphatic system, or the lymph system, and how it works with our immunity in general. What is the lymph system? What is the lymphatic system? The lymphatic system consists of lymph, obviously, lymph vessels, lymph nodes, and lymph tissue. Don't ask me who came up with the fancy terminology, but this is where it comes from. And this system works with the circulatory system. And its function is to remove waste and excess fluid from the tissues. So when somebody has cancer, for instance, and they have a mastectomy, heaven forbid, but they remove glands under the arm, you'll find those are lymph glands, just by the way, and you'll often find that the arm now swells. Similarly, if there's infections in the legs, it's that lymph that is causing the swelling, and the fancy terminology for that is an edema. So lymph is a thin, watery fluid. It almost looks like water, but it's just slightly thicker than water. And it's composed of intercellular or interstitial. Interstitial is tissues, fluid that forms when plasma diffuses into tissue spaces. Now, plasma is part of your blood supply. So your blood consists of the red stuff that you can see, white cells, and then plasma, which is also, it's like a watery type fluid. If you can remember back to your young days and you skidded on off a bicycle or something like that, and you had a scab that formed over that graze, the first thing that comes out there, that watery fluid that becomes the scab, is your plasma, technically. And it's composed of water, digested nutrients, salts, hormones, oxygen, carbon dioxide, lymphocytes, and metabolic wastes such as urea. And then when fluid enters the lymphatic system, it becomes known as lymph. So when all those waste products enter, they are waste products. Once they're inside, they become known as lymph. Now, your lymphatic vessels, or just simply lymphatics, are located throughout the body in almost all tissues that have blood vessels. That gives you a brief overview of where you're going to find all of these lymphatics, pretty much all over. Now, the lymphatic capillaries are small, open-ended lymph vessels, and we're talking microscopic. And they act like drain pipes. Now, if you think of your lymphatic system pretty much like your toilet system, sounds a little bit gross, but that's pretty much how it works, because you empty your waste in there, goes out into a soak pit or sewage pit, and it dissolves out there, and that then breaks it down into water and waste products that get taken care of. And your lymphatic system works more or less the same way. You pick up lymph at tissues throughout the body. So wherever you're going to find tissues, and we think of tissues as the soft parts of the body, that's where you'll find lymph. Now the capillaries join together to form larger lymphatic vessels. So think of a drainage system. You open your tap, the water comes out, goes down the drain hole, out into bigger and bigger pipes as it gets taken away from your home. Now, the lymphatic vessels obviously carry lymph, but they don't have their own little motor, and they work through contractions of the skeletal muscles that push against the lymph vessels, causing lymph to flow through the vessels. Think of a sponge. You fill a sponge with water and lay it on your hand, nothing happens. You squeeze it and water comes out. And that is how these vessels work. So they act as a sponge, they're absorbing all the lymph. And then when you contract your muscles, work, walk, whatever, it's squeezing and getting rid of that waste tissue, waste fluid out of your system. And the vessels pass through little lymph nodes. Think of a catch net on the end of a pipe to catch up all the things like leaves and plastic and junk that's going down a drain system. You've put a net or a stocking over there to catch all the solid objects and allow the water to pass through. And this is what the lymph nodes do. They allow the lymph, which is clear fluid, to pass through, and the lymph nodes catch up all the bacteria and the other junk that you want to get rid of. And they contain valves that keep the lymph flowing one way only, because you don't want it coming and going. You want it going and getting out of you. It goes towards the heart. When it gets to the heart, it gets pushed out of the system through the circulatory system. Now, lacteals are specialized lymphatic capillaries. Capillaries are extremely small little vessels. And these are located in the area of the small intestine. And they pick up digested fats or lipids. Now, lact meaning fat. So anytime that you've got excess fats and oils in your system, it's going to go through these lacteals. Now, when lymph is mixed with the lipids, it is called chyle or chyle, depending on how you'd like to pronounce it. Now, lacteals transport this chyle to the bloodstream through the thoracic duct. My apologies for getting a little bit technical as far as the anatomy is concerned, but it does give you a slightly better idea of where and how all of these things work. Now, lymph nodes are the bigger little packets of glands that you find all around the system, namely here in the throat and other areas, which we'll get into. And these are located all over the body, usually in groups or clusters. And the principal groupings are in the neck, the armpits, the chest, the abdomen, the pelvis, and the groin. So anytime that you have a throat infection, for instance, you're going to feel the glands that are swollen around this area underneath your chin. You have an issue in your arm or chest area. You go to the doctor, he's going to feel underneath your arm for swollen glands. Sorry. Same with the abdomen and the pelvis and the groin. So you've got an infection in the leg, for instance, they're going to check and feel in your groin for swollen glands. And these are small oval masses ranging in size from a pinhead all the way up to an almond, which is roughly possibly a little bit bigger than my thumbnail. Now, lymph vessels bring the lymph to the nodes. So think of a stormwater drain, brings all of that muck, so plastic and sand and leaves and whatever else happens to be in the stormwater drain goes hurtling down. until it finds a catchment area or a net or a something. And that is the lymph vessels bringing the lymph to the nodes, which will be that catch area. Now the nodes filter the lymph and remove the impurities, such as carbon, cancer cells, pathogens or disease-producing organs, and dead blood cells. Now, lymphatic tissue in nodes also produces substances such as lymphocytes, which is a type of leukocyte or white blood cell. These are the things that fight infection in our body. And antibodies are substances used to combat infection. We're hearing a lot about antibodies at the moment because they're now starting to test for the COVID story. They're busy checking and testing to see if you have antibodies. And the antibodies are showing that your immune system is now charged and ready to fight the virus should it have happened to come past you. So you may still catch COVID, but if you have sufficient antibodies, your body is basically an army that is armed and ready to fight. And you might end up with a runny nose or mild symptoms or quite probably no symptoms at all. But the infection will be combated and sorted out. Purified lymph with the lymphocytes and the antibodies added leaves the lymph node by one or two lymphatic vessels. So you've gotten all this stuff over there, they've gotten rid of all the junk, and you're getting rid of all the good stuff now, and that's got to go through the system and out of your body. So your lymphatic ducts are these where the vessels, when the vessels leave the lymph nodes, they continue to join together to form larger lymph vessels, like a drainage system. And eventually they drain into one or two lymphatic ducts, the right lymphatic duct or the thoracic duct. Again, fancy terminology, don't stress about it, more for interest. And I'll show you here. There's a picture and you can see on there where your thoracic duct is. And this is a short tube, and that receives all the purified lymph from the right side of the head and neck, the right chest, arm. Our body, as you know, is divided down the middle with right and left. Each side does its own thing. And this empties into the right subclavian vein. Big words, don't stress about them. And they return the purified lymph to the blood. So they've cleansed everything. Now they're pushing the good stuff back into your body to kick in and start doing its job again. Now the thoracic duct obviously is in the chest area. And this is a much larger tube, and it drains the lymph from the rest of the body. Obviously, the first bit drained from a small area, this drains from the bigger area of the body. And it empties into the left subclavian vein. We won't get into where all of these things are. You don't need to know that. And you have an enlarged pouch-like structure called the cisterna chili or Kylie, however you'd like to pronounce it. And this is located at the start of the thoracic duct. So this is sort of the start of the whole system. Now your lymph tissue is located throughout the body in addition to being in the lymph nodes. So we are pretty well protected throughout our system. Most of you will have heard of things like tonsils, spleen, and thymus. And these are all examples of lymphatic tissue. Your tonsils, back in the dark ages, it used to be thought that at a certain age, you just had your tonsils removed and your appendix removed, and nobody really knew what they were there for. And the joke when I was growing up was the tonsils and appendix were there to pay for your doctor's children's university. Sadly, however, these things are critical and crucial to our immune system. So the masses of lymph tissue filter the interstitial fluid, which is the fluid that you find between the tissues. And you actually have 3 pairs of tonsils. If you thought you only had 1 pair, you were mistaken. You have a palatine tonsil, which is on either side of the soft palate, which is the one that you can see. pretty much over there. Those are the big ones. Those are the ones that normally get removed. And then you have your pharyngeal tonsils, also called adenoids, which are located in the nasopharynx, which is the upper part of the throat. And then you have your lingual tonsils, which are on the back of the tongue. I won't stick my tongue out to show you, but it's at the back of your tongue. You have another set of tonsils over there. Now, your spleen, often we see a spleen being removed after somebody's been affected by massive abdominal trauma. They've been in a huge car accident and the spleen bursts and then it gets removed, or somebody's climbed into them with a baseball bat or something, and this is where all of these things happen. So the spleen is also part of your system, but you can live without it. This organ is located on the left side in the back of the upper part of the stomach, so sort of around about, but if you can see it, about this area over here. And it produces leukocytes and antibodies. So you can live without your spleen, but my suggestion is you take extra precautions about boosting your immune system if you've had your spleen removed. And it destroys old erythrocytes or red blood cells. And it stores erythrocytes to release into the bloodstream if excessive bleeding occurs. So it works in two manners. It gets rid of the old stuff, but it also holds on to the new stuff in storage. Think of a warehouse. When the shop needs something, they order from the warehouse and it gets trucked off to the shop. And then we come along and we buy the individual items, whereas the shops buy in bulk. Same sort of thing. And it destroys the thrombocytes or platelets. And it filters some metabolites and wastes from tissues. All big, fancy, technical stuff, don't worry about it. This is just how impressive and how thorough our body is and how good nature is to protect us. Now, the thymus is a massive lymph tissue located in the center of the upper chest. You'll find this in children. You won't find it in adults because it atrophies or wastes away after puberty and is replaced by fat and connective tissue. So its main function is during early life to produce antibodies, to manufacture lymphocytes to fight infection, and the function is then taken over by lymph nodes after it atrophies. So, nutrition and the lymphatic system. It's not surprising that our lymphatic system, like the rest of our body, depends on a well-balanced diet rich in vitamins and minerals to keep it in peak condition. If our body is experiencing a high level of inflammation, this can put increased stress on the lymphatic system, and over time, this can lead to dysfunction and impairment. To ensure that you are supporting the drainage and filtering power of the lymphatic system, make sure to take in plenty of water and foods with anti-inflammatory properties, and reduce your intake of foods that can increase inflammation within the body. So basically, try and take it easy on your system and give your body as much assistance as possible. And we need to do this in the form of green leafy vegetables. And there you see some that includes spinach, kale, chard, arugula, which I'm not particularly sure about what that is, collard greens, beet greens, etc. When you pair this with an extra virgin olive oil or full fat salad dressing, the absorption of vitamins found in the leafy greens increases. Bonus. So consider both cooked and raw versions. Me, I'm quite fussy. I actually am not a big salad fan. I much prefer my vegetables cooked. I know it's very bad, but I try and do the steaming version of it whenever I can. Cooking vegetables makes some nutrients easier to absorb, but decreases or destroys others. So it is good to take in some of both. In other words, you win some, you lose some. Be a winner and use both. Cruciferous vegetables. I think we're quite familiar with these ones. These are your broccoli, cabbage, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts. Now, one study has shown that eating 1.5 cups of cruciferous vegetables per day has been shown to decrease 3 inflammatory markers in the blood by 13 to 25%. That is a significant amount and shows how important these veggies are. Now, you're probably not going to get them all in one go in one day. The other thing that we need is berries. And these contain multiple phytochemicals that have a strong antioxidant effect in the body. Think carotenoids and flavonoids. And then obviously we know about omega-3s. Our good old salmon. Salmon, wild seafood, flaxseed, and chia seeds are a good source. Omega-3s have been associated with decreased C-reactive protein. We're hearing quite a bit about that now as people talk about immunity and all the rest, which is an inflammatory marker in the blood. So if they take a blood sample and they check your C-reactive protein and they see what it's doing, they can tell what's happening in your body. Nuts and seeds. Chia, flax, hemp, and pumpkin seeds are all very good. They are high in quality fats, protein, nutrients, and antioxidant polyphenols. Herbs and spices such as turmeric, ginger, and garlic, and cinnamon and rosemary and green tea and black pepper and cardamom are all good for antioxidants. Not only does it add some great flavor to your food, but they can back a big antioxidant punch. So you can enjoy your food and know that you're being protected at the same time. Watching my time over here. Extra virgin olive oil and coconut oil. And we do mean the extra virgin, not the stuff that has been polluted or cooked or that sort of thing, where it's been able to, where it's gone off and being rancid. Foods that cause inflammation in the body should be avoided. Common allergens such as dairy, gluten, soy, shellfish, or nightshades need to be avoided. And low-quality animal products, refined vegetable oils, and processed foods, in other words, junk foods. Be careful of them because they all cause inflammation. Water is a crucial part of our whole body. This probably doesn't come as a surprise to anyone, but staying adequately hydrated is an essential part of a healthy lymphatic system. It is a main component of the lymph that helps to trap bacteria and microbes and keeps our immune cells functioning properly so they can destroy these invaders. So wellness in the lymphatic system. Even though I want to stress the importance of nutrition, I can't do the lymphatic system justice without mentioning the importance of healthy sleep, exercise, and stress management habits. One single thing is not going to protect you. You've got to do a little bit of everything. Inadequate sleep and excessive stress causes increased cortisol, which is a stress hormone, which leads to increased inflammation in the body when it becomes chronic. And this is why when you have chronic inflammation, they will prescribe cortisone to try and work as an anti-inflammatory, but it comes with its negatives. The lymphatic system relies on muscle contraction to help assist in drainage of the lymph fluid. So exercise is very helpful to support this process. Next time you hear someone talking about the immune system, think about the lymphatic system and all the amazing things that it does for your body. How do we protect it if we're not getting everything from our diet? We need to supplement. But what do you supplement with? As we know, supplementation is reserved for adding what we aren't getting from our diet. We have learned now what we need to eat to boost our immune system. But you should ask yourself if you are getting enough from your food. I know I'm not. In my opinion, you should be very aware of what ingredients are in your supplements as well, because natural isn't always natural. I've been through the immune system and suggestions before, but I will summarize right here. There is a pretty good summary for everything that we need. The only thing missing from that little picture is vitamin D. Vitamin D is a powerful nutrient which functions as both a vitamin and a hormone. Both excess and deficiency can have serious repercussions. We need the correct balance because too much of anything can be bad for you. The toxicologists will tell you that the poison is in the dose. Arsenic is a very good indication over there. You can have arsenic. In fact, we've got arsenic in our system. You can have arsenic in your food, but too much will kill you. Just enough is okay. Omega-3 fats are precursors to things called resolvins and protectants, which regulate the inflammatory response. I've been through this in a previous talk. And vitamin E may be particularly important for older people. We're talking the late teenagers, anybody over the age of about 30. This vitamin has an affinity for the lungs and has been shown to decrease the severity of influenza in older mice. Now, obviously, we all live in the rat race these days, but we are not rats, but they use mice to test to see how that affects us because the system works fairly closely, scarily enough. Some flavonoids have such potent antiviral properties that they're being considered for use as drugs. That is quite mind-blowing. Selenium deficiency during infection with the flu both increases and sustains the inflammatory response, especially in the lungs. So if you have a deficiency in selenium, be prepared to put up with flu for longer and have a much worse effect with the lungs. And I fully believe this has been the problem throughout the story with COVID, because it is a type of flu. It's not flu, but it is a type of flu. And we've seen what has happened over there. Linus Pauling suggested that the cold and flu could be prevented or ameliorated or lessened by proper use of vitamin C. So that ends my talk for tonight. Thanks for joining me. Join me next week as I cover the story, the need, and the ingredients of a good, balanced detox system, because this works very closely with our lymphatic system. We know that the lymphatic system works to get rid of all the toxins in the system, but think about it. Now we've got this buildup of toxin in our body. What do we do? How do we get rid of it? What does the body need to get rid of all that poison and muck out of the system? I'm going to cover that next week. If you have found value in this training, please join us at the end of the month. And I'm wanting to do this every month as I present a short health seminar on what to look out for on your health journey. And these health seminars, I've picked this up from the team overseas who have done a fantastic job of putting together some PowerPoints for us. So it's not my information. It is the Scientific Advisory Board that'll bring us this information. And I'd like to open these sessions to as many guests as possible. So, but I will let you know at the time when this will happen. So we are on a mission this year to make the world a healthier and happier place. That's it for tonight, folks. If you've got any questions, please unmute and fire away. I will try and answer as many questions as I can.
Thank you, Sean. It was brilliant.
Thank you, Sean.
Pleasure.
Thank you very much, Sean.
All right. It wasn't too high a grade, I hope.
No.
It wasn't too rushed either, I hope.